In this video, we'll look at creating a template or a DWT file in AutoCAD. Template files have this red icon that you see here, and our start point will be the default AutoCAD ISO metric template. The reason you want to create a template is that it really is a powerful time saver. Now, when you go to save your template, you should save it in your own templates folder, not in the default templates folder that AutoCAD stores its template. And the reason for this is that when you go to install a new version of the program, you want to make sure that your templates are going to be stored separate from the program and don't get wiped. There are lots of settings that you can save in your template, and these include the following: the unit type and precision, and we'll be drawing in metric units. You can change the drawing limits to suit the size of whatever you're drawing. And if you want to zoom all to your new limits, then double click your mouse wheel. We can of course change our snap, grid and ortho settings. We can create lots of layers, and these layers can have assigned line types, line weights and color settings. And in relation to layers, you should always keep everything by layer for the most part. We can also incorporate a title block with borders and logos using the layout tabs. We can also create text styles, dimension styles and multi-leader styles. And we'll do this in a follow-up video. So template files have this red icon that you see here with A for Autodesk and or AutoCAD if you wish, and DWT, whereas drawing files have this yellow-blue icon and DWG. So they're quite different. It's important that when you're saving your template file that you save it as a DWT file. So among the benefits of using an AutoCAD template is that it will speed up what you do. Your layout tabs can be configured for different paper sizes and different printers and different paper orientations. And you can embed your logo and projection symbols and your title block into these layouts if you want. You could also import them as a block. So with all your layers and object styles, such as dimensions and your text and multi-leaders that we've mentioned previously, will all be embedded in your template, ready to be used straight off. Here are some layers that we'll incorporate into our template, and their associated line weights and line types. We'll go on and do this now in AutoCAD. So here I am in AutoCAD, and I'm going to start creating my new template by using the default existing one for metric, which is AutoCAD ISO. So if I right click on the Start tab and select New, AutoCAD will bring up its template dialog box. I'm going to select AutoCAD ISO, which is our metric template, and click. So the drawing number doesn't matter. So the first thing I'm going to do here is check my snap and grid settings. If you're a new user of AutoCAD, you can zoom out quite far and it's very easy to get lost. If you look at my cursor now and you look down here at the readouts, you can see, this is got an X value there of 254 meters. So to prevent yourself getting lost until you get used to what you're doing, I recommend turning off the display of the grid beyond limits. So to do this, go in here to the settings by clicking on the down arrow and click on snap settings. I'm going to untick this box, display the grid beyond limits. So by turning off this, the grid will only extend to the limits of the page, which by default is just an A3 area. But we can change this and increase it as we need to. So as a rule of thumb, set your snap spacing to half the grid spacing. So currently my snap spacing is 5 and my grid spacing is 10, and click OK on that. So now it looks like we've no grid, and as I start zooming in there on the UCS icon, you see you get a grid. But if you double click your mouse wheel, that's a quick way to get the new grid to display to the limits of the screen. So we now have our grid filling the screen. If you want to change the size of this grid, if you go to your Format pull-down menu, and in here you have an option here to change the drawing limits. The limits of my drawing are as follows. The lower left corner is 0, 0. So it's very easy to mess this up if you start clicking on the screen here. Always look at the command prompt. And down here, AutoCAD is telling you the lower left corner is 0, 0, and we don't need to change that. So just hit enter. And your upper right corner, it's currently 420, 297. So this is our grid extends across here 420 millimeters and 297 vertically, which is an A3 sheet, as you know. If I wanted to increase this area so that you have a slightly bigger grid, so to increase my grid, I'm going to say I want a grid of 1000 for the X value, type in a comma, that locks that in, and for the Y direction, I'll just put in 800. And if I roll my mouse wheel, you can see now that you have changed the limits of the grid there. So now I've got a slightly bigger grid, and if I move up in this area up here, you can see that this corner here would be 1000 for the X value and 800. But we can change this as we go. And again, as I zoom in there, the grid adapts and so on. F9 or click Object Snap to turn on your grid there. Now the other thing you might want to check is what units are we drawing in, and because we selected AutoCAD ISO to begin with, it's going to be metric, but let's go in and check our decimal places here. So on the Format pull down menu there, select units, and you can see our decimal units are set to 4 decimal places precision, so we could change that, but let's leave it at 4 for now. Our decimal degrees, we'll change that to 1 decimal place. So if a line is slightly off horizontal or vertical, then by setting that to 1 decimal place, you'll know this. And angles are measured counterclockwise, so we're not going to change that. East is 0, and we've seen this in previous videos. So click OK on that, and click OK again. I'm going to create some layers now, and to do this, just click on Layer Properties. So this brings up our Layers dialog box. And the default layer is layer 0. And this layer has some special properties when it comes to creating blocks and so on. And we'll look at this in future videos. So layer 0, AutoCAD's default layer, the color is white, continuous. Now the line weight's the default line weight. And if you're wondering what the default line weight is, if you go down here to the line weight display, and if you right click on it and go into line weight settings, the default line weight is actually 0.25 millimeters. So we leave that as 0.25 millimeters. Click OK. So I'm going to click new here and new layer. So Alt N will do the same thing for you. And this copies the selected layer, which in this case is layer 0. So I'm going to create a layer called work. And the properties of this layer will be identical at the moment to layer 0, but I'm going to change the line weight. I'm going to increase the line weight to 0.5, and this layer work is going to be used for continuous visible lines, and I'm going to give it a line weight of 0.5. All the other properties remain the same, so the layer is turned on, it's not frozen, it's not locked, and so on. And it's set to plot as well. So these properties are all toggles, so leave them on. So let's create another layer. For border, you can create these layers in any order, and AutoCAD will sort them alphabetically for you afterwards. So again, this will be the same. It will be continuous line type, color is white, which will be black because we've got a white background, and our line weight's 0.5. So that's okay. So we need a layer for construction lines. So type in construction, and my construction lines, I'm going to set the color to cyan, which is color number 4 here. Click OK on that. And my construction lines, usually we won't want to plot these out. So, but if you do, I'm going to set a line weight there of 0.2 for my construction lines. Duplicate the construction layer, and I'm going to create a layer here for B line types. So that might be like the root of a thread on an engineering drawing. So B, you can use underscore if you want. So if I have B line types on a drawing, I'm going to give these color blue, which is number 5. Line type again is continuous, and the line weight for these is 0.25, which would be half of your normal visible lines. So if I duplicate the B line types, and let's create a layer for dimensions. Again, this is going to be blue, continuous, and 0.25, so that's fine. And now let's duplicate that layer and create a layer for hatching on our drawing. And by default, I'm going to set the hatching layer to magenta, which is number 6. And again, everything else remains the same. Duplicate the hatching layer, and I'm going to create a layer for text. I'm going to make my text blue with color continuous 0.25. That's fine. I'm going to create another text layer, maybe for my title block. So I'm going to create a layer called text. I'm going to use underscore, and I'm going to go TB for title block. And I'm going to pick a different color. I'm going to pick a color here, burgundy type color for now. And again, the line weight's 0.25. I might be bringing in a logo into my title block. So I'm going to create a layer called logo. And I'm going to use the same abbreviation again. And this kind of thing you often find on architectural drawings, whereby they use like A for architect or B for building, whatever, to group layers together. So you can use something called filters, and AutoCAD provides 2 different filter types. You can have either a property filter or a group filter if you want to select multiple layers. The color of the logo layer, I'm going to set this to, well, initially let's set it to gray for now, right? But I'm going to change this later on. Now the next layer I'm going to create is a layer called viewports, and viewports is a special layer that we use to put our viewports on when we're in our layouts later on, our paper space. So for the color for this layer, I'm going to pick this color here, number 20, this orangey color, so you'll be able to see it in your drawing. So I've assigned color 20 there to my viewports layer, and so far all our line types are continuous, and we've created these layers here. Let's create a layer for center lines. So I'm going to click new. So here's my center layer. Color for my center lines is going to be red. Click OK. And the line type, we need to change this. So click on continuous. This brings up the select line type, and there's only one line type loaded by default in AutoCAD. So if you click on load, these are all the line types that are in AutoCAD, and there's quite a lot of them, as you can see there. You've got special line types for batting and fence lines and so forth. All the usual lines that you might need on a drawing. Now I'm going to load all of these into my drawing. So if you right click and select all, we've now selected all the line types. The line types are in a special file called acadiso.lin. Click OK. Now that loads them into your drawing. You don't need to do this anymore now, because we're going to be using this template as the basis for all our future drawings. So select line type center. Click OK, and that assigns the line type center to the center layer. Let's do something similar for my hidden lines. So I'll create a layer called hidden. These lines are going to be green. Click OK. Change the line type to hidden. So drag the scroll bar down there until you find hidden. So select hidden. You also have variations of the hidden, as you can see. So this would be hidden times 2. It's just a scale of the lines on a drawing. So here's your, this is your regular hidden line. Hidden 2, the scale is 0.5. The dashes are smaller, closer together. And hidden times 2, the dashes then will be twice as big. So let's go for hidden and click OK. Now let's select layer work again and duplicate that one. So let's create a layer. Say we're doing some construction drawings. So I'll create a layer and I'm going to use the A, which will be useful as a filter. So I have A underscore walls, wide continuous 0.5. Okay, that's fine. Duplicate that layer again. A underscore windows, and the color for this is up to yourself. So I'll just pick a color here for my windows, change the line weight, reduce that to 0.25, and duplicate the windows layer and create a layer for doors. So I'm using the A underscore again. You can give this different color if you want, it's up to yourselves. So we have now these 16 layers here in total in our drawing. Before I leave this, I can make the whatever layer I want, the current layer, but I'm going to make layer border the current layer. So the current layer is the one that has the green check in front of it. So if I use this icon here, I can make whatever layer selected the current layer. So click on that, and now border is the current layer. And you see this up here as well. So now we've created our layers. Let's close that. Your layers will appear here, and they will also appear up here on the quick access toolbar, which can be handy when you're on a different tab and you want to know what's the current layer. So if I'm on the home tab, I can see my layers here. But if I'm using a different tab here and I want to check, well, what's my active layer, you can see it here straight off on the quick access toolbar. If you don't have your layers appearing here on the quick access toolbar, click the drop down here and tick the option layer here, and that will turn it on. So I've just turned it off there, tick it on, and now you'll have your layers here on the quick access toolbar. Now most of the time we spend in model space drawing our geometry. What about now if you want to print out a drawing? Well, AutoCAD has by default here got these layout tabs, and layout 1 and layout 2. I'm currently in model space, which is our model tab, and our snap is currently set to 5. Layout 2 and layout 1, they're identical. They're not associated with any printer or anything like that. So I'm just going to focus on layout 1. Layout 2, if you don't want it, you can delete it by right clicking on it and press delete. But maybe you want to leave that there for the moment. So layout 1, if you right click on it, you can delete it, as I've said. You can rename it. You can make a copy of it. So this layout is to do with our paper. So I'm going to rename our layout here to A4 landscape. So it just highlights, and I'm just going to say this is going to be A4 and a little L for landscape, just to give me an idea of our page. Before I change anything to do with our layout here, which is we don't know that this is an A4 page yet, just because I call it A4 it doesn't mean it's A4. We're going to go in now and look at the settings for this page, but just to point out, the dashed rectangle here, that's our printable area on a sheet, and I'm actually going to use full bleed, which for A4, which will actually enable us to print the entire full page. This dashed rectangle, that normally shows your printable area. This rectangle here, well, it's actually a viewport, and if you click on it, you can see it's on layer border, it's annotation scale, and so on. And this, we can display our geometry at different scales inside in this viewport. What is this viewport? And it can be a bit confusing to new users. Well, when you're on the paper, you see this, I guess we'll call it our set square here, our 60-30 degree set square, which it looks like. And it also says paper down here on the status bar. If you click on paper, AutoCAD now takes you back to model space. So I'm now actually inside in the window here. And a viewport, if you like, is like cutting a hole in the paper so you can view in and see your model. And in this viewport, we can display our geometry at different scales as we require. So let's toggle back to the paper. A quick way to do this is double click outside the viewport, and I'm now back on the paper. So I'm going to delete this viewport. Just click on it and press delete on your keyboard. So let's go now and set up our page size. So page setup manager, select that. This brings up our page setup manager, and at the moment we don't have any device or plotter selected. So let's click on modify here. So here in the page setup, I'm going to assign a printer or plotter, and in these videos we're going to work with AutoCAD PDF. So it makes it very easy. You can configure your AutoCAD system for different plotters and printers if you have them, but I'm going to use AutoCAD PDF today. I'm going to go with AutoCAD PDF high quality plotter configuration file. So click on that. Over here I'm going to use the AutoCAD.ctb file here, and that's for color plots. If you were printing in monochrome, you could select this one, but we're going to select AutoCAD.ctb, and that's going to pick up on our colors and our line weights that we have assigned in our layers. This is where we set the paper size. So I said we were going to go with full bleed, which is going to allow us to use the full A4 page. So ISO full bleed A4, select that. Now your display here shows that the printable area is the full size of our sheet, and we're going to put a border inside on our sheet, just inside the size of the page. So this will maximize the size of your plotted drawings in AutoCAD. So we're always plotting the layout. The offset, we could move our border on our page by changing the X and Y value. Offset origins are set to 0 for X and Y, and that's fine. So we're always plotting the paper 1:1. We don't scale this. So we're plotting the layout, which is our A4 page. Scale is 1:1. You've got some options here. We don't, if you had hatching and you wanted to capture the transparency, you'd have to make sure that option there was ticked. And finally here, if you want to customize the quality, and I'm going to select 300 dpi, which should be fine for our drawings. So that's okay. You can preview it, and all we're going to see here is just an A4 page, nothing on it. Landscape orientation, exit out of this. So I'm going to click OK to save these changes. So now this layout has AutoCAD PDF assigned to it, and the plot size is 297 by 210, as you can see there. So let's click close. If I press F7, that will turn a grid on and off here. So you have a grid here on your paper if you wish to see it, but we don't need this just right now. Now I want to start here at corner 5.5 on my drawing. Now let's turn how do you turn your snap on? Well, we don't have a snap setting. So if I type in here snap, right, the current spacing is 10. Now if you recall, our spacing in model space is 5. So this is a separate environment. I'm going to change my snap spacing to 5, and I'm going to make sure that my snap is turned on. So now if I were drawing a line here, you can see I can draw from the point 5.5. When you're in paper space, you don't have, so I'm just going to go back to model space for a moment. You don't have the snap and the grid icon. So let's go back to our layout. I'm going to draw a rectangle for our border on our page. So select rectangle, start from corner 5.5, drag across 200, 285, like that, and click, and there is our rectangular border. Now it doesn't look as if it's got a line weight of 0.5, and the reason for that is our line weights aren't turned on. So display our line weights, turn that on, and now here is your border on your sheet. Now I want to put in my title block. So I'm going to make sure that I'm using polar tracking, which is F10, and also object snap tracking is turned on as well, so we'll see our tracking lines F11. So make sure both of those are turned on. I now want to draw a line 10 millimeters up from this corner here. So all I'm doing here is I'm hovering the mouse on the corner and drag, and you can see your tracking line there. So this will start my line 10 millimeters up from the corner, and I'm drawing a line out here 70 millimeters and back down here vertically, and click, and press the space bar to end the command. Press the space bar again and you can start from here. Now I'm going to track up. This time I just want to go up 7 millimeters. So just type in 7, and as you go across here now, if you've got snap on, that's going to cause us a problem. My recording system is set up to use F9. If I want to turn my snap off here, I'll have to, in the middle of this command, by using an apostrophe. You won't have to do this, you can just press F9 on your system. I'm just going to turn my snap off, so I have to do it this way. So to show you, click there, and with my snap off, I can draw my line across there and intersect with the intersection there of the border. Press the space bar again, click, drag up, and I'm going to leave my snap off in this case. So it's just 30, and across there like that is 70. Press the space bar, and I've got to go up here vertically a distance of 18 and across there like that. So that's the outline of the title block that we're going to use here. I'm going to put our logo in here and our projection symbol here. So I'm going to draw a line 30 millimeters across from here. So again, hover and track and just type in the distance. Okay, 30, and straight down. Okay, now down here at the bottom, I want to divide this area here into 3. This line is 70 millimeters long. If you click on it, there you go, 70 millimeters long. And I want to divide this area into 3 equal columns here for my text. To do this, go to Format and check your point style setting. So by default, your point style will be set to display as a dot. Let's change this. You won't be able to see that. So let's change this to, let's use this one here and click OK. Now to divide a line into number of equal parts, we can use the divide tool here, which you get from the drop down there. Divide will create evenly spaced point objects or blocks along the length of your line there. So click on divide, select the object to divide. The number of segments is 3, so type in 3, and AutoCAD will now put in a point or a node as it's referred to when you've got to snap onto it. So I'm now going to draw 2 vertical lines from these node points. So click on line, or L for line, and now AutoCAD is looking for the first point. So how do we snap onto these node points? We're going to press the Shift key on our keyboard and right click on your mouse and select node. So object snap node. Node is another name for a point. So click node, and that will allow you there to temporarily snap on to your point there. Drag it straight down. It should say 17. Click and press the space bar. Press the space bar again because you want to draw another line. So when AutoCAD's looking for the point, then you press the Shift and right mouse button and select node again. Now if you had a lot of these, of course you could turn on your object snap node down here and for constant snapping to node points, but we really don't need that. So these nodes or points can be now deleted. So this is my border here on my sheet, and in the next video we'll bring in our logo and embed it here. We'll add our projection symbol here, and we'll put in some text, and we'll also show you how to add special text called a field, and then we'll create a viewport on our drawing. So let's save this now as a template. So go File, Save As. We're going to be saving this as a template. So files of type, change this to AutoCAD Drawing Template. So select DWT, which is your AutoCAD Drawing Template. AutoCAD then takes you to the default templates folder. Right, it's a big long path down there to the templates folder. we are not going to save it in there as we mentioned at the start. I'm going to browse where I want to save this template to. So go to your templates folder. So here's the templates folder that I want to save my template into. If you don't have a folder already created, you can create one on the fly by going right click on your mouse and go new and create a new folder. So I already have a folder here, so I don't need to do that. So give it a name. So let's call this my CAD template and click save. AutoCAD gives you a description here that you can change. Normal international metric drawing template uses color dependent plot styles. So I'm okay with that, so I'll click OK on that. So now your template is saved here as a .dwt file. It also appears up here on the title bar at the top. Now if you want to use this template, you first of all need to close it. So click close, save changes to it. We haven't really made any changes to it, so it doesn't really matter here, but click on that. So now we've closed our template, and in the next video we'll use that template as our starting point by going right click and new and browsing to it. So don't open up the template, browse to it. So go to the folder where you saved your template, click on it, click open, and now AutoCAD has created a brand new drawing here, drawing 4, which you could use to do some drawing on when it's finished. But for now we're going to continue with updating our template, and we'll look at this in the next video. But always go file new, don't open up a template, and of course we always draw on a drawing file. So right now drawing 4 is identical to my template, but we're going to continue with this now in the next video, where we're going to show you how to create some textiles, put some text in here, add in our logo and our projection symbol, and we're going to create a viewport here so we can see our model geometry. Thanks for watching.